Hey guys, welcome to LTUE. Indeed, LTUE Just a Few Things super special October event. We are proud to welcome our fabulous first set of panelists, and they are here to tell you about humor and horror. Take it away, guys.
Been around. I mean, starting with the Addams Family, or even newer, older than that, and moving forward into Zombieland and the works that you guys are producing. So, how is it actually possible to have it be both seriously humorous and seriously horrific?
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to talk, please talk.
Well, I actually talk about this a lot. I have a presentation that's called Humor and Horror, Two Sides or One Side of the Same Coin, because they're almost exactly the same. There's three genres that actually try and induce a physiological effect as their baseline, and it's humor, horror, and porn. And so because humor and horror, they're all about instability, they're all about discomfort. And so it's very easy to juxtapose them, and they're nice balances. So like if you're having a really intense part, you can balance it out with some humor. And then if you're in a funny movie, if you really think about it, any funny movie, if that was happening to you, it would not be funny. It would be a horrific event. And so the difference is that in horror, we're associating with the character, we're becoming them. And in humor, we're far enough back from them that we can laugh and not be a jerk.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I could say something.
Yeah, please.
I mean,
Speak
that's
up.
kind of a common rule in art. If you want to make something look white, you put black right next to it. Or if you want something to look black, you put white right next to it. So if you want something to be truly horrific, it's good to have that contrast.
Okay, so that's kind of a key, right?
Mhm.
Go ahead, Amy. You have something?
And so, yeah, when we look at the analytics of it, there's straight humor, well, you could say straight humor, straight horror, and just be, all the way humor, all the way horror, and it just is one note. When you can add in the contrast is when you find you really have that. It's almost like a calm before the storm. You have the humor to let off steam, and then all of a sudden you just reel them right back into the horror part, just shock them, and it's just an extremely powerful dynamic to rivet your readers, keep them going, and keep them completely engaged in the entire story.
So, given that horror tends to be generally relentless and is going for a deep tension that does not let up until the final resolution, humor would seem to completely subvert that. And I get that you can use the one to accentuate the other. But how do you make your decision as to whether you're going to go straight up horror or go for something a little less horrific in order to get those giggles in? Start with Amy.
Well, I'm kind of a bad one for the actual horror part. I do the analysis because, well, my book is Dressing the Naked Hen, and it's straight up humor, how to make puppets, fancy gloves, okay? And you get Punch and Judy, the horror version of puppetry, which I'm not a fan of. I love the laughs. But when I look at one of the most serious and humorous is the Matrix. You've got the straight humor, the straight serious. The most popular dynamic is serious with some humor when you connect with your largest audiences. So I look at the largest audience.
Okay.
I don't know if that helps you.
Michael Brent? People, please feel free to just jump in anytime. We've got
okay.
sound.
As long as we can be rude
so
with your permission, we're good then.
Please, please.
I think one of the things that I've noticed is that, like, I wrote a book recently called Stranger Still, and it was a sequel. And the first book was called Strangers, and it was this really dark, harsh, like, it's a family that gets basically sealed into their home, and a madman is going to push them to expose all their secrets to each other if he has to kill them to do it. And it was really popular. And then I wrote Stranger Still, and it was 10 times more popular with the fans. And the difference was that I let them see inside the main character's mind, and he is so crazy. I had fans like writing me emails and going, I was laughing so hard, and I was so uncomfortable that I was laughing, because what does that say about me as a human, But it really told me something, that it's neat to have this horror, and we do associate with it. But when the characters are able to do something funny, that helps us associate even more. If the whole thing is laughter, you're kind of stepping apart, because you really are making fun of someone. You're being kind of an awful human being in the darkness of the theater. But with horror, if you can laugh just a little bit, there's that sense of, oh, he's just like me, she's just like me, because we would be giggling. We know how we react to scary stuff, and the first thing we do, we go because it's so awkward. We're trying to find some way to cope, and laughter is just a socially acceptable alternative to screaming. So if we can seed a little bit of humor into the horror, it actually does not just heighten the horror by contrast, but it heightens it because we associate more. We become more a part of the event. So rather than it just happening, now we've provided input as well. We've given that laughter that's like, okay, now I'm really playing with you guys.
To kind of piggyback on that, since Michael Brent can't toot his own horn too much, like I even made a list in preparation of this of like, what are my favorite horrors and why do they make it, or why are they my favorite horrors, and thinking like, okay, my favorite horror is House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski. I can't say his last name right, but my favorite funny horror would be Stranger Still by Michael Brent Collins, just because yeah. Just because of the characters and the unexpected funny or comedy or humor of some of the, they're not exactly protagonists, they're antagonists, and just and yet I was in a way rooting for them because of their characters and because they were funny, and it creates a very interesting dynamic.
So go ahead.
Well, and I really enjoy Zombieland. I mean, seriously, that is just punctuated with the absolutely perfect. Sorry, I keep touching the table and it shakes the whole computer here, but it just makes it so much more fun. When I watch a horror or read a horror, I want to go through it once. I don't really want to go through it again. I'm going through it to get to the end to see what happens. When there's the humor inside there, I'm going to rewatch and rewatch and rewatch because I really get a lot of joy out of it. And it even just anticipating it before going, oh, rule number 2, it's just, and then when they play off of it in the most recent one and the other guy's got his rules, I mean, it's just fun. And yeah, it counterpoints all the gruesome and the blood and the shooting and the absolute terror at times as well.
That's an interesting distinction. Yeah, please.
I was going to say, that's like, I really like what you said. First of all, thank you so much about mentioning my book. Anytime someone mentions my book, like my mom actually went to the hospital and one of the nurses knew me and I played the, like, I'm not famous, but I played famous for once. Cause like, I'm like, yes, everybody knows me, get her a better room and some Jello. Yeah, it was total, but I don't have the hair to do that. So, but I love what you just said about I'm so jealous, all of you. I'm realizing I'm the bald man out. It helps with the replay value because one of the things that horror struggles with, a lot of people say like, oh, Stephen King's book was really fun up until the end, and then it just wasn't fun anymore. And that's one of the things that happens in horror is you get to the end, the monster's revealed, the characters either die or they don't stop showing off. He's just like spreading his hair everywhere. And once that's done, the monster isn't as scary. And so the replay value is limited. Like you're not going to go back and be just as scared the second time. But if you do sprinkle in that humor, people can go back and say, oh my goodness, I think the character you were talking about in Stranger Still is named Sheldon. And he is so stupidly vile. Like people can go back and go, did he really say that? Yes, he did. He is that horrible of a person. And it really does help with giving your audience not just something to enjoy the first time, but to give them actual characters. You know, you want people to go, this is not my friend, but if it was a real person, I would watch him all the time. And you don't get that if it's just straight horror. Like everyone goes to see Hostel and they go, yeah, it was disgusting. And the guy, I don't know, got his head run over and his eyeballs popped out and it was shocking. The second time it's not shocking. There's nothing there to hold us. So humor really gives a little that flavor that we come back for.
And I think that's an interesting idea there, Michael Brett, is that humor is something that we can enjoy multiple times on the same punchline.
Yeah.
Whereas horror it's you experience it, you get to the end, you're like, ooh, glad that didn't happen to me, and move on. So could you just mention some of your favorite? I mean, we kind of already started the Michael Brent fan club here, but some of your favorite humorous horror in all forms: film, music, short story, long story, narrative essay.
I think it is no coincidence that the most popular, like the most successful spoof parody series of all time is the Scary Movie series. And it's spoofing off of horror, and horror feeds into that. It takes it and says, okay, now again, like we're going to take actually the same horrific events and we're going to step back and play the exact same things, only show how ridiculous they are if you really think hard about them. And so those are, I loved some of those movies. Some of them were a little too far, but in every straight horror, there's giggly moments, even like in the straight stuff, because you sit there and go, ha, 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 ha. I remember watching Misery, and I told my friend, I'm like, I know how this works. There's going to be lightning, and she's going to be right there, and it's going to be scary, and and it happens. And up in the front, Lord love them, there was like this little group of 14-year-old girls, and they went, ah! And it just rippled through the whole audience, and it hit me and my friend, and we started shrieking, and no one could stop screaming, and then no one could stop laughing. And horror is like you're already at the tip of that cliff anyways, and they just go bing, and you're cracking up. Yeah. So Misery is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
But telling a similar experience, I was at the International Cinema at BYU and had taken my 13-year-old son. And it was the funniest thing. We're watching a show called a Japanese horror movie called Dark Water. And of course, you've got a bathtub filled to the brim with dark water. So of course something's going to leap out of it. Of course it is. Right? We never produce a full bathtub of horror in a black and white grainy film without something leaping from the water. So that you could feel the tension in the theater, and my son is burrowing his head into my armpit. And the moment comes, and we all know here it is, and nothing happened. And several seconds later, as we were getting ready to leave the room, then the thing leaped out. And there was this guy, must have been 6'4", burly, screamed like a little girl. The highest, freaky
Sorry, is this J. Scott Savage?
Yes,
Yes.
Oh, good. Are you ready to go live?
I am.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm
That's totally
sending
okay.
you live. Here goes.
Okay.
Sorry, give me a moment.
Whereas humor lets us actually deal with that even perhaps more constructively than the other way. Would that be a fair statement?
Certainly safer. And I think that's why it's awesome when the 6'4" guy laughs, it like screams like that, because you can look at him and be like, see how strong you are? But I survived and you didn't because you screamed like that. Like we get to be safer when we're laughing. And that's why I do say it's a socially acceptable alternative to screaming, because we can laugh at something that's horrifying and uncomfortable and not like relinquish our adult maturity. But as soon as you stop laughing, you've let it in, and that's when it starts to hurt, and that's where horror takes over.
Right.
I laugh in the haunted houses. It's the regular corn mazes that freak me out.
Yeah, it's standing in line to get into the haunted house that freaks me out. I don't know those people. They're not paid actors. I'm not sure that I'm actually safe right now. Thank you very much.
They didn't sign a warrant.
Totally.
So we've had our fifth panelist arrive, or our fourth panelist, as it were. Hi, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? And
Sure. I am J. Scott Savage, and I write primarily. I started writing adult mysteries and thrillers. I published a horror novel, Dark Memories, and then I started writing middle grade. And I have one middle grade horror series, Case File 13, that was named a Summer Scares by Horror Writers of America for this year. And so, yeah, so excited to be here. Thank you.
So, why do you write humorous horror?
Because I write middle grade. You don't have an option to not write horror.
That's all.
Not since R.L. Stein, you have to have it.
Yeah, no. In fact, it's kind of funny because I'll get reviews where they'll go, okay, so just be aware. This actually, for a kid's book, this has some very scary scenes. And it's like, yeah, that's intentional. You know, I've had even librarians. I was in a cute little school in southern Georgia, and this librarian goes, so in your zombie kid book, you have like real voodoo in there. And I'm like, yeah, I try to do a lot of research, and I'm excited and talking to her, you know, and then I get this look and I'm like, that's a concern for you, huh? And she goes, well, a little bit, you know, but I think that kids want scares. And so when you're writing a kid's book, it really is finding that balance of how can I scare you and make you laugh, and scare you and make you laugh pretty much through the entire book.
Well, and books are a safe way to explore those feelings and those scary things, or the life experiences that kids don't have another way of experiencing. And I mean, as a former children's librarian, that was my speech to the adults that would say, oh, but don't you think that they shouldn't be reading about, well, the one that was, was two kids doing cocaine. Well, wait, do you not, we can't show our kids that's just not right. But a book takes you all the way to the end. A story takes you all the way to the end, to the consequences. And you get to experience that, where in real life, sometimes it's too late if you get to those consequences. So whether, you pull them in, you keep them there with a little bit of humor, and then you give them that super scary thing. Honestly, when kids would ask me, what's the scariest book you've got? And it was, what was the name of it? The scariest book that we ever had at the library it was based on something that could really happen. It was a militant group that decided to release a virus that had, would pretty much devastate us. Darn, 2020. That was years ago. But the scariest ones were the ones that could really, really happen. And so it was really fun to have, Zombie Kid, sorry. Anyway, having these books that they could have a safe scare and, kind of build their muscles, build their ability to handle the world and to see what end results were, and whether it's triumph of their main character, they are able to succeed. And Zombieland, the rules, I'm sorry, I just love it. You got the rules. Hey, if I've got the rules, I can survive anything. Teach me how. And that's one of my backbone things, is just let the kids experience it. Let us as adults experience it too, because goodness knows. It's a
And
sin.
Bill Murray plays a joke, and
Oh, he's so funny.
anyway.
Something that occurred to me while you were talking, like that was, you made some really awesome points, and you were talking about how, like, they get to see the consequences in a book, and it occurred to me, humor and horror both share a function that they are safe ways of learning survival. In that, with a joke, if a person asks you a riddle, you either figure it out and you're really smart, or you don't, and you both share in the fun of it. And so no matter what, you're learning how to think, you're learning how to share communally. And horror, similarly, even if the end of the book is terrible, like everybody dies, everybody's burnt to death, and then everybody rises and is damned for eternity. And that's like such a downer book, but the person reading it gets to close the book. And it's the end. And so even though nobody in the book survived, they did. They're like, I'm continuing on beyond the boundaries of this moment. And so that's another thing I think that makes them mesh so well, is they really are. They're teaching vicarious survival skills. They're teaching, I love that Scott was talking about middle grade stuff. Like I was flown out to a school to talk about my zombie series, which is violent. And I was ready to talk to all the seniors and stuff. And I got off the plane and was met by 45 12-year-olds. And it was just a bunch, like the teacher said, I read this one sentence from this book to teach them how to do sentence structure, how to do the sentence diagramming. And they loved it. And so the whole 8th grade read it. And that's why we flew you here. And it really does show. I was shocked. I was not prepared. I really had to adjust my speaking comments. But it showed, like, from this very young age, these kids appreciate, like, this is a safe place to learn how to deal with some things that are labeled as dark, but in reality, they're part of our lives. You don't get to not have horror in your life because you don't go see Silence of the Lambs. The horror is still going to be there. But I tend to think that people who can laugh and people who can imagine the demons are also better prepared to cope for the reality when it hits you and you have that horrible moment. We laugh and we tell ourselves, well, the demon will be slain if I hold on till the credits roll.
One strange thing, I have, my screen went completely black.
Oh.
That was probably just a survival technique since I was talking.
There, I'm back.
Apparently,
Okay.
Michael Brent freaked out the server somewhat.
It's the reflection off my only person bald head, savage.
Go ahead. There you go.
You got something, Ray?
I'll save it. Michael, we'll be twins.
Being someone who, like, my father passed away when I was 5, and all my grandparents were gone. Like, 8 of my grandparents, that's normally a thing, were dead before I was 20. I was very familiar with death, and even at a very early age. And I kind of attribute that as to my fascination in horror, but also just seeing that these things are happening, especially in the world today. There's very rare the typical family in these days. The kids are going through so much. It's life isn't hunky dory, and sunshine daisies and all of that. And so I think it's good that even the people who, like, even the kids who do have these kind of typical families, that they can read about these atypical families or these atypical situations, just to be able to understand, even if they don't have those experiences, that they can understand those who do. Or for those who do have those, not necessarily those similar experiences, but the experiences that horror can bring up, of being scared, of feeling alone, of just not having that support in any direction. Just that they can feel like, oh, other people have felt like this too.
Experience resonant, if not specific, right? So following along that idea, it's if I understood something you said earlier, Michael Brent, the idea that horrific situations are also inherently humorous because it's the only way we can relieve our own tension enough to keep going. So arguably the difference then between horror that's funny despite itself and horror that is funny because the creator made it so as an effort to even deepen the horror of an otherwise potentially mundane, or not mundane, but of something that would be easier to dismiss if it didn't have that humorous glue to stick it to your psyche.
Yeah.
Is that a fair thing?
Yeah, totally. If you're in a fight, like if you've ever been in a real fight, and then it's over and there's this moment of like, oh, good, it's over. I mean, whether you won or lost, you're happy it's over because you're in the middle of this struggle. And you know what would just be the worst thing ever would be to have the fight over and then have some random unassociated person walk over and punch you in the crotch. Like that would be so much worse than the fight, you know? And so I think humorous moments in horror movies really do that because what they serve to do is they go, okay, everyone take a breath. You're safe. Not really, you know, and they, instead of providing you with security, they lie to you. You know, they say, okay, you're fine now. And they're really, their friend is in the back ready to sucker punch you. And that's a really effective way of deepening horror. And it also tells you the most effective horror moments are ones that change our reality. So like in The Exorcist, the scariest thing in the whole movie is when she gets a needle in her neck and blood is like squirting out, because man, that's happened to me. Psycho, I don't want to take showers ever again. I hear the freaking Jaws soundtrack every time I go in the deep end of the pool. And so what horror is doing is, it's when it uses humor, is it's saying you're not safe. Even when you're happy, you're still not safe. And it gives you this sense of overriding dread that really continues and pulls you deeper and deeper, because it's convincing you, no matter what, under the covers, the ghost can get you. Going to the bathroom, the ghost will, I mean, like Sixth Sense, the kid's peeing on the toilet and the ghost walks by. And I'm like, that is not okay, you know? And so making us laugh in the middle of it is a really good technique for just punching us in the mental crotch when they're done laughing.
What is that? Zombieland rule number 2 or something? You know, you are not safe in the bathroom.
Yeah. And it's totally true.
And that whole shtick, right? That we're going to tell you every nasty thing we're about to do to you. We're going to tell you about it up front. And you're going to react anyway. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So as you sit down to create a story, do you start from an idea of a horrific moment, or do you start from the idea of the almost absurdist break from that moment? What draws you into humorous horror as a creator? Start with Jeff, Scott.
Yeah, you can call me Jeff or Scott. It's totally fine.
Whatever.
So again, I do a little different. Like, I'm the entryway drug to Michael Brent, right? You know, I get the kids ready, you know, but I think Michael Brent is right, though, that when you talk to people and say, when did you start reading Stephen King? And for most people, unless they're older, it's not when they were, 20, 30. I mean, it's when they were a teenager or even younger. That's when they kind of discover that. So, but in my stories, like in middle grade, there's a couple of things that you have to do. One is, I think one of the things that separates middle grade horror from YA horror is that how real can it be? So I can have a dragon come and bite someone in half, right? I have a scene in Making the Team where they're in this sewer and they see these huge pink spiders that are crawling through the sewer, and they discover that they're actually severed hands, okay? I can get away with that because it's still fantasy horror. What I couldn't do in middle grade is show a person actually cutting off another person's hand. I couldn't make that jump. So for me, if I'm writing a scary scene for kids, I like, again, that several people have mentioned this, but I think that what I look at is I look at sort of humor as sort of a spice. So like, okay, if horror is my hot sauce or my habanero peppers or whatever, then I'm going to come back and go, do I want to go straight hardcore peppers, or do I want to sweeten it, or do I want to make it salty? How do I want to play with that? When I get to the straight scary part, for me, for the most part, I get rid of kind of my humor there. So it's these certain levels. So when I'm coming in and doing my setup and doing my build up, I've got more humor that I'm playing with. And then as soon as I hit my peak, I've got to come back with some sort of humor to kind of bring it back down again. Because I think it's like anything. If you have tension constantly too high, if you have a car chase scene in a movie that goes on too long, it's no longer on the edge of your seat. It's like, okay, finish the car chase. I think that's the same thing with horror. You know, is it's like, build me up to that, give me that great moment, and then release it so I can go. And I think that's the same with adults or kids.
Now, you brought up how, you can't show cutting off a hand in a children's book. So that book that I mentioned a little bit earlier, the one that was too real, the only thing that saves, and this is why I will never recommend that book, honestly, and I warned kids off of it, that the only thing that saved the world at that point was that the kid was magic.
Yep.
And so, I'm sorry, but when it's a very real scare or something that could truly happen, you can't have magic be what saves you. Or, Stephen King started doing this too. You'd have a very realistic, and all of a sudden, wait, it's a fantasy. Gigantic spider, what? I kind of lost my my love of Stephen King when I read It back in when it came out in the 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, you're essentially, you've got to prepare the reader. I have sort of the feeling, I love Dan Wells' I Am Not a Serial Killer. It's an awesome book. I love it. But not to be a spoiler for people who haven't read it, but there's a point where you're like, okay, this is straight contemporary kind of horror. We know the setup. We know where we're going. And then suddenly, halfway through, with no warning to me, it takes this huge turn where you're like, no, this is really fantasy horror. And I think that's the thing is if you're going to have humorous horror, you've got to show that humor. If you're going to have fantasy, you've got to plant those seeds early enough that the reader, like, they don't have to know what's coming, but they have to know what it is that you're preparing them for. They have to have that feel.
Something is coming, whatever it may be, and that's part of the tension. Yeah. Interesting. Other thoughts? So it sounds almost like suggesting that the humor, if anything, is actually an accelerant to the horror, an intensifier, because it actually allows you to take it much deeper into yourself before you then pull that trigger and reveal the true underlying nature of the problem. Yeah. Is that fair?
Think of it like opening a gate. When you're laughing, your gate's open.
Right.
You're not just guarded and waiting. So if you've got that gate open and then boom, you let it in.
And that's how Michael Meyer ends up in the back seat. Right.
I think that humor essentially lets you earn the emotion of fright. I really think it does. Like if I'm writing a straight contemporary novel and I want to kill someone, the best friend, I've got to show that friendship first so that when that person gets killed, we go, oh my gosh, I can't believe, you got to earn that emotion. And I think with horror, if you use humor, it literally kind of opens that gate up. And now when this really scary thing happens, it is really scary because you've brought the reader in through some level of humor.
I think too, someone mentioned the roller coaster. That's an analogy that comes up a lot when you're talking about horror and thrillers, is you don't ever want to ride a roller coaster that's just going up, 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 and it gets boring. And I agree, but here's where the analogy breaks down is people think I want to get really tense and then stop being tense. And that's baloney. No one wants to go on a roller coaster that goes up, 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 and then straight. And then up, 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 up. And then, that's a sucky roller coaster. What we want is to go up and then get plummeted and then do a corkscrew. And so one other thing that comedy does, humor and horror work together, is horror is that tension. And then the humor is that corkscrew. You're still having like a high tempo experience. You have not stepped back and said, okay, now we're going to be boring for a while. You know, like you do not see in any of the Nightmare on Elm Street series, like they don't wake up and they're like, oh my gosh, Freddy's real. Let's have some tea or something. I just feel like it's like an Earl Grey moment. You know, like there's still stuff happening. And Freddy's a great example because he is so funny. But it's a really good way, like, we talked about earlier, to spice things up. And you don't have to just do it with horror. You can do it with anything. You're going to want a little bit of humor. You're going to want a little bit of horror. If you're in a romance, the horror is, oh my gosh, I lost them, you know, before the happily ever after. There's that moment in every romance. This isn't going to happen. And then it does somehow. And that makes the moment that it's earned so much better. So anytime you're talking about two things on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have to remember it's all on the same, it is on a spectrum. It's a storytelling spectrum. And if you can hit as many of those points along the way, if you can have love, if you can have romance, if you can have funny, if you can have, honestly, you know, a little bit of scatological humor in an otherwise highbrow thing, you hit all of these moments and it allows an entire human experience, because humans are these experiences. We have all felt elevated desires and love and appreciation and intellectual moments, and we've all had, like, you know, that was a hilarious fart joke. I'm sorry, I'm 45, but that was funny. I'm telling all my kids this, you know, and that's what stories do at their best, is they don't give us a horror story, they don't give us a romance, they give us a life, they give us a full experience.
That's really interesting, because I know that in my own life experience, I've had some moments where things have not gone well, and the only way I can tell that story is as humor, by winking and nudging and saying, look, we all survived, but in the we weren't sure.
Yep.
And that's part of, right, and people can resonate with that, I think. So quick question, are you guys, yeah, go ahead, right?
Oh, and
Sorry.
you know, and they don't have to be separate things. Actually, to paraphrase Liesl Shurtleff, she gave a kind of thing about humor, but it's interesting how much they tie together. She said, you know, some of the types of humor are incongruity. So it's like, oh, somebody died, but we're laughing. That's incongruous, and yet it's funny in that way. And then there's, you know, relief of like breaking the tension, and that, you know, you're talking about that horror is very tense, but if you have that little, just breaking that tension can be humorous in and of itself. And then there's the superiority, or the slapstick, seeing other people get hurt can be funny. And that happens a lot in horror. And then also like the humor in the forbidden. So there's the, you know, you shouldn't be laughing about this stuff, but it's funny. You know, the fart jokes, like you're saying, and or just, you know, things that are taboo, but they're funny, and you shouldn't be laughing about it, but they are. And so, anyway, and then also the humor and sincerity, that when somebody is so serious about something kind of ridiculous, but then, you know, you pull it into context. Like, humor and horror don't have to be two separate instances of like building the horror and then break down for the humor. It's still, it can all be in with itself.
Oh, again, my thing is absurdity, right? Part of horror is that there is an unreality, or an experiential newness to this that you don't know how to slot. You don't know how to characterize it. You don't know how to respond to it. And your only response is either a certain break from objective reality and viewing it as absurdity so that you can keep going, or you just sit down and cry.
You know, that you guys, that was such a good point that you guys made, like that it's woven together, and you do have to break from it or you cry. Like, I was thinking about, if you were sitting down at a table with on a date, and the person across from you said, I'm really excited about this. Oh, good. No, I'm really excited about it. I can't tell you how excited I am. I'm so excited, I almost tore my own finger off in excitement. And you'd start laughing, because at this point, this is not real. It's not really happening. It's not happening to you because it's not real. And then the person at that point does exactly that. They're like, I can't handle it. And they pull out a knife and just cut their finger off. And at that moment, it's really happening to you. And that, I love that you said they're interwoven, because very often people pull into horror through kind of the lulling mechanism of, oh no, it's not happening. It's not happening to you. It's not happening. And that's why everyone gets so pissed about the girl who runs up the stairs, but we all do crap like that. Like, we heard somebody moving around in our house when I was first married. And I say to my wife, I'm like, stay here. I'm going to go check it out. I had nothing but my underwear to protect me, And so we all do those things that it's like, it's not really happening. It's not really happening. It's not really, oh crap, it's happening. And up until that moment, you are laughing. You really are. That's how they trick you into a feeling of safety. They're like, it's happening to somebody else. It's happening to somebody else. It's happening to somebody else. I'm stabbing you now. And they work to pull each other together. I think that was such a good point. Thank you. Sorry, I was just excited about that. That was great.
Well, it's interesting because I had a conversation with your dad at one point about how horror is arguably the most moral of the storytelling forms.
Yes.
Because it always has a resolution at an existential level.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you're suggesting, or what this conversation has been suggesting, is that humor is actually the best way to drive that all the way home in the deepest, most penetrating sort of way. So, general question for everybody: what's next? Let's go ahead and start with Amy.
What's next with what
What's
I'm
next
doing?
for you?
Or-
What are you doing? What can we look forward to?
Massive ghostwriting project for 11-book contract. So
Wow.
yeah, I've got to figure out what to do at the barn, but I've got to stop feeding horses every single night and driving a tractor and then hurrying and taking my hair out of a ponytail seat and hoping you don't see the dust on my face. So there's that, as well as publishers asked for a new edition of the Dressing the Naked Hand, 2022, or maybe, I don't know, fall of 2022 or 23 spring release. So we're working on that, having a lot of fun. And and there's 2 biographies that I'm supposed to be ghostwriting. So, and the textbook for Katie. We are actually filming her final information, her culmination of everything. The textbook should be coming out. There's an editor that's just holding her nose to the grindstone, and so that should be coming out. We'll be doing some trade books on it as well that we're being given permission to go ahead and write.
Okay. Scott?
So I just had the Lost Wonderland Diaries come out, which was, again, kind of, it's really funny. They're like, okay, we need a monster on the cover because this is middle grade. But it's basically, people know Lewis Carroll. They know he wrote Alice in Wonderland. What a lot of people don't know is that he was also Charles Dodson, the mathematician. He kept diaries his whole life. And after he died, 4 of his diaries disappeared. And no one knows what happened to those diaries. So this explains what happened to those diaries, and that the mathematician really opened a doorway to a parallel world, and then he wrote about it as Lewis Carroll. So it's middle grade, sort of Wonderland is getting turned into monsters, and these kids have to stop it.
Nice, Ray.
Yeah.
Was that a cue to me?
You.
Or was that a right?
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Ms. Dark.
So I just released my book. It is, sorry, forgive the proofread thing on there. It's prettier when you'll get it. It is technically, the phrase that agents and editors love is it is a standalone with series potential, but the sequel will be coming out in spring next year, this upcoming spring. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about that.
Excellent. And Michael Brandt.
I have on October 30th. I have the proof thing too. See, it's a normal thing. When the toilet paper kerfuffle happened, I put a post on my fan page on Facebook about how we were out of baby corn for stir fry, and please send help. And we were sitting on our roof, and all my fans reacted tremendously. So for 100 days, I went through and did this isolation journal where I progressively went more and more insane. And I fell in love with the coat rack, and we had a relationship, and I was stuck in the bathroom for days and days on end. And so I compiled it all as a book, and it's called Tired, So Very Tired, because every single entry has that catchphrase, we're tired, so very tired. And that'll be coming out, and it's just goofy, and it's making fun of like the new age kind of healing things that take themselves oh so seriously. So you can look for that for me. And then after that, it's the third book in the Stranger series.
Excellent. So we were going to try to do a little bit of a Q&A. I don't know if our esteemed, frankly, I don't know how this part of the system works.
That's why we're here, right?
I'm pretty sure it's just us talking to each other at this point.
I
Like,
think it is.
there's no one
It's
even
just
listening.
Well,
I had a question if we don't have any.
okay, hey, let's Q&A amongst ourselves. I like it.
I want to know scariest moments, personal moments. Like if you have one that was kind of had the bit of the humor in there. Oh, we might have somebody.
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we do have one audience Q&A question, and sorry the stream's messed up for everybody. But the question is, what are some good or rather bad examples of media that tried to be horror but had too much horror, and vice versa? Sorry, we'll need to end the stream in about 4 minutes, but there's the question.
The entire Saw franchise.
What was bad?
I think my most recent experience with that is The Last of Us Part 2, which is a video game. And some video games have astounding stories. And The Last of Us was really kind of a genre changer for video games. It was the first big PlayStation 3 video game. It kind of ushered in that era. End of PlayStation 3, beginning of PlayStation 4. So Last of Us 2 came out, and it was just relentlessly grim. And at one point I just told my wife, like, whoever wrote this hates the universe. I mean, there's just this real feeling like they just wish everyone would die right after buying the video game. And it's no fun. You need that little bit of humor just to enjoy that relentlessly grim stuff. Nobody really wants to go in and feel like crap for 2 hours.
Well, and it has to be something better than life sucks, then it sucks some more, and then
Yeah.
you're not lucky enough to die.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else? Scott?
I don't know. I see, that's such a taste thing, you know? I mean, probably there are people who love that video game, you know? I don't know why.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like every example that I could give, there's people who come back and go, okay, so no one else is going to love this, but I loved it because, you know, and so for me, I feel again, like with Michael Brent saying there, you know, I mean, I need the to me, if it's just grim and basically it takes you up to that level and then it just sits there. And so for me, if horror doesn't make me laugh at times, if it doesn't make me squirm at times, like if there's not times where I'm totally lost in the story, and then other times when I need to like put it down for a minute, whether it's a movie or a book or whatever, and to me that doesn't work. You know, it has to have these different twists and turns and stuff. So I don't know. I don't know that I've finished books. I mean, I've started books and stuff where it's just like, or even movies where it's like, no, this just isn't for me. But
It's not
other
worth
people,
the effort, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Ray, did you have any good examples of bad
Sorry,
examples?
we're gonna
We
have to end
apparently
right about now. Hope that's okay.
No.
okay. I was gonna say we're
Okay.
getting
Well, you're amazing.
our hard kill here, but if we could have like 30 seconds to get last words in for Ray and Amy, that would be great.
Okay.
Is this still about the question then?
Good example
Okay.
of a bad example.
I'd have to get a good example just because I watched Zombieland for the first time last night. It's still going through my head, and it's very appropriate for my book. Like, it's actually just the rules that is very into my book is all about those rules, and it's hilarious. They're different rules, but yeah. Anyway, the first part, like the credit scene where they're still introducing things, I wasn't a big fan of that because it was just, hey, death of lots of blood and gore and everywhere. And I thought, okay, can we just skip to the actual movie part when we actually meet the character and see the story? And then, but I enjoyed it after that. Like, as soon as it moved on from the intense slow-mo blood and gore everywhere of, you know, up close the death scenes of all the zombies, it was fine after that. I really that would be a good example. As soon as
Okay.
those credits were done.
And
But
Amy, did you have anything real
yeah,
quick?
yeah. Move on.
I just have to say I've been trying to give the boys a chance, but it just keeps getting. I mean, there's no relief, and the shock factor is wearing off because that's all they do.
If you can survive the first 10 minutes of the boys.
Yeah. I feel the same way.
Okay. Well,
Disappointing that Jensen Ackles is in it now, and it's supposed to be even worse with him.
boy. And on that note, thank you all so much for being here this evening for Life, the Universe, and a few things, specifically horror and humor. Thank you, panel.
Thank you
And
all so
thank you,
much.
audience.
Bye.
Bye.
Good to see you all.
Yes, actually see
Awesome.
faces.
People.
button again. I'm not supposed to do that. That's my own error. Right.
He's ready to go live.
Okay, take that. Go ahead and take that out because otherwise you're going to show on the live stream.
Oh, yes.
Mute.
Hello, everyone. This is the Cat Chat, and this panel. Oh, shoot. And we will be starting the panel for this round. We've got J. Scott Savage for Know Your Hero Villain Type and How to Use It. John, take it away.
From your side? Does that look okay? Okay, cool. All right, so we will jump in here. So I am J. Scott Savage, and I started out in 2001. I published Cutting Edge with a small Utah press. It was a high-tech thriller. And then I wrote mysteries and thrillers, a little bit of time travel. I wrote a horror novel called Dark Memories. And then, what's that? Okay. All right. Then I started writing middle grade. I wrote the Four World Fantasy series, the Case File 13 Scary Middle Grade series, the Mysteries of Cove Steampunk Dragon series, and my newest series is called the Lost Wonderland Diaries, and that just came out in September. So super excited about that one. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be talking. This is not a typical hero and villain class in that I'm not going to tell you what a good hero is and what characteristics your hero needs to have and what type of villain you'd have. What I wanted to do with this class specifically was to examine classic hero and villain types, okay? And then to compare them and look at examples of these types of both heroes and villains. And then in the second part of the class, or the second, maybe final third of the class, we'll actually compare what happens when you match this hero type to this villain type. And as someone who was old school Dungeons and Dragons person, what I wanted to do is I wanted to do that through characteristics. We won't necessarily call them charisma and intelligence and strength and that sort of thing, but you'll recognize a lot of those here. So what we're going to do is going to start with hero types. We're going to talk about the pure hero, the anti-hero, the unlikely hero, the everyman, every woman, the reformed hero, and the intellectual. And the attributes that we're going to view our heroes through are they willing or unwilling as a hero? Did they choose to be a hero or not? What are their motives? What are their strengths and weaknesses? What is their baggage? What are their beliefs? And what is their reader appeal? Now, again, you may look at this and go, why would I want to know all this? Because once you figure out what type of hero you have, then you can look at what type of villain you want to have to create the greatest conflict or the most powerful story. Or you can do it in reverse. You can start, you know, I've got this great villain. What type of hero should I match up with them? So we're going to jump into the pure hero. And some examples here are Superman, Wonder Woman, Captain America, Dirk Pitt, Jack Ryan, Legolas. Okay, so we've got examples here. So let's examine the pure hero. So the pure hero is very willing. They want to come and save the day. That is their job. That is who they are. Typical motives for the pure hero include freedom, protection. It's a challenge. They're very pure motives. They are here to save the day and protect the innocent, right? So their strengths are that they're usually very powerful. They're some of the most powerful heroes that are out there. They tend to be very brave and they tend to be very self-confident. Okay, so great. Superman, you know, Captain America, Wonder Woman. What are their weaknesses? Okay, probably the biggest one is their ego. Okay, they are doing the right thing all the time and they can't view anyone else in a different way. There's not a lot of gray area. They're very limited by their morals most of the time. Okay, if we actually have a story or a movie where we have a pure hero and we corrupt their heroes, that's going to make the viewer or the reader very unhappy, because the whole point of the pure hero is that they have a true moral compass that they have to stick to. They have tunnel vision and they're very uncompromising in their beliefs. We'll talk a little bit about Civil War and why someone like Iron Man and someone like Captain America, even though they both believe in the same general things, basically come to battle with each other. But a big part of that is because our pure hero is uncompromising in their belief. Their baggage are that they are unable to deal with past mistakes. If a pure hero screws up, it creates a big crack in them that is very hard for them to deal with. Their beliefs are that they have an unassailable focus on what they view as good. So if they believe it's good, it's right, and they will fight for it. If they don't believe in it, there is no gray area. So the reader appeal is that we love the pure hero, but we can be turned off by their perfection. Possibly because they are so perfect and because they have so few flaws, it's harder for us as a reader or a viewer to necessarily relate to them. Not always, but it can be. Their power on a scale of 1 to 10 is 10. They are one of the most powerful heroes. And from an alignment standpoint, they're what we would call lawful good. Okay, they have a set compass. They're always aimed at good as their true north. All right, so next we have the anti-hero. Okay, so examples of the anti-hero: Deadpool, Han Solo, Flynn Rider, Beetlejuice, I know how they say it in the movie. Harley Quinn. Okay, Huckleberry Finn. So what is the anti-hero? Number one, they are highly unwilling. They do not want to come in and be the hero and save anyone. They've gotten pulled in, kicking and fighting. Okay, typically their motives are the opposite of the pure hero. Okay, they're selfish motives. They get pulled in for money, or they're blackmailed, or it's self-interest, or it's revenge, or it's guilt. These are the kind of things that pull them into the fight. Their strengths are that they don't have that moral compass. They can, for the most part, do whatever. They're not limited by a certain moral set of rules. They tend to have insider knowledge because a lot of times they have a backstory where they weren't the hero before. They've got all these streetwise connections. They know what the bad guys know. And so this is a great strength for them. Their weaknesses are that they doubt themselves a lot. On top of that veneer of kind of, bluff and bluster and I'm really cool and, you know, no one messes with me and I do what I want, is this doubt, this lack of commitment. Almost always they have some sort of secrets that they're hiding, and they have conflicting interests. So even in the middle of the fight, they're asking themselves, do I really want to be here? Am I the right person for the job? Their baggage is that they tend to have a checkered past. They have scars. They have hidden stories. They have problems. They have issues. And as people find those out, they can use that to pry on their doubt. So their beliefs are that they come in with a self-interest, but hidden underneath there are true beliefs. They don't want anyone to see what those beliefs are, but they are down there, which is a lot of times why they might get forced into the battle with money or blackmail or revenge or whatever. But ultimately, they step up and become the hero because of those hidden beliefs. So this actually has a very high appeal for readers. We really kind of love the anti-hero because a lot of times they have a lot more charisma. You know, they're funny or they're charming or they're witty. We really like them. You know, it's like, I know they're not the best hero, but they're a lot of fun. Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, they're not quite as powerful as our peer hero, but typically they are fairly powerful. And their alignment is chaotic neutral to chaotic good. Okay, then we have the unlikely hero. Okay, Matilda, Goonies, Belle, Quasimodo, Samwise, Harry Potter. Okay, when we have the unlikely hero, what we're looking at is a person who doesn't typically view themselves as a hero. Okay, they're not powerful. You look at this power on here and it's number 2. So it's someone who would not view themselves as a hero, but they're willing to help. They're like, yeah, you know, I'll come in and do whatever you need, right? It's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer going, hey, you know, if you need me to light up the way with my red nose, I'll do that. But their motives are typically helping others, proving themselves, fighting tyranny, and that they have a very strong sense of right and wrong, this sense of justice. So they want to do the right thing, which is why they're willing. And that's part of their strengths. They're optimistic. They have hidden talents. They're driven. They have this inner strength that's hidden over this exterior of a person who doesn't look like a typical hero. So their weaknesses are that usually they don't have connections. Unlike the previous hero, they're not streetwise. They don't know people. They don't have a lot of knowledge. And their self-esteem is very low. They don't view themselves as a hero. And so as a result, they come into it going, I'll help, but I don't know what good I'll be. So their baggage is that they've been belittled for years. They've been doubted and they're used to failing. And if you can convince the unlikely hero that they're not up to the challenge, they may give up, okay? Because they don't really think they can do it either. Their beliefs are that they follow their own personal moral compass. This is not like the pure hero where it's like, this is good. It's what seems right to them. How do they view right and wrong through the prism that they view the world? Their reader appeal is that we all love the underdog. You know, I mean, we're all rooting for Matilda. We're all rooting for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. We want the underdog to win. But their power is very, very low, which is why they have to have something inside them, something hidden. And they tend to be good, but not that pure good of the pure hero. It's more of a chaotic good. How do they view the right thing? All right, next we've got the every man, every woman. Okay, so John McClane, Frodo, Moana, Ripley, Joe and Joe versus the Volcano, Katniss, Jean Valjean. This is a lot like it sounds. So this is a normal, ordinary, at least for the most part, ordinary person who has been brought into the battle. they're not coming in and going, yeah, I'll fight the battle. They're more reluctant, okay? So they sort of get pulled in, they get forced in. Their motives are that it's the right thing to do. They fall into it. They're called into this. They have no choice. So they're coming in and going, okay, fine, but I'd rather, be home with my family or reading a book or whatever, right? So their strengths are that people tend to underestimate them, and that they're gritty and self-reliant, okay? The every man, every woman, that grit is probably the #1 word when we view them. Their weaknesses are that they don't have superpowers. They didn't come into this battle prepared. They don't have a lot of knowledge. They're just coming in and trying to make it happen. Their baggage is that they've probably never been in a situation like this before, unless this is like, the third movie or book or whatever, in which case, yeah, they're now prepared, right? And at that point, maybe they're not even. If you're in the third movie, you might change from the every man, every woman to a different type of hero. Their beliefs are basic human decency. They want to do the right thing. And the reader appeal is that we view ourselves, for the most part, we view ourselves as the every man, every woman. So when we see John McClane out there, doing battle and everything like that, that's how we'd like to see ourselves if we were put into that situation. So they're a little more powerful, than the unlikely hero, but they're still fairly low on a scale of 1 to 10. They're 4, and they're neutral good. They're like, yeah, I'm trying to do the right thing, but I'm not necessarily committed to what the right thing is. Okay, then we've got the reformed hero, which, as you would suspect, is a villain who has become a hero. So Scarlet Witch, Gru, Maleficent, Snape, Black Widow, Iron Man. This is someone who was at least not a hero before, okay? A lot of times they were a villain, but there's something that they're sort of reforming for. So we could say that Iron Man was a villain because he was selling weapons and everything like that, and he turned around, but at least we know that he was just kind of a playboy who didn't really care. He was definitely not a hero. So the reformed hero is unwilling until they have a change of heart. They were following this path, which they were fine with, until something happened that put them on a new path, which is the path to now becoming a hero. Their motives are typically making up for what they did in the past or putting something that was wrong right. Most of the time, they are trying to fix something that they broke in the first place. Not always, but often. Their strengths are that they know the enemy very well because they were the enemy, and they're highly committed. Because of that change of heart, they're now committed to doing the right thing. Their weaknesses are that just under that veneer, there's temptation, bad habits. They're extremely volatile, okay? So you can see Captain America, Superman, they are always going to be who they are. But the reformed hero is always on the edge of maybe making a bad decision and changing. So their baggage are that it's hard to deal with what they've done in the past and who they are. And they're constantly looking over their shoulder and questioning themselves. Their beliefs are they can see both sides of the situation because they've been on both sides. And their reader appeal is that it's hard to trust someone who was a villain before, and we're afraid that they might become a villain. Just like we'll look at certain villain types that we want them to become a hero, okay? But when a villain becomes a hero, we're rooting for them. We really want them to succeed, but we're afraid that they might turn back into a villain again. They're very powerful, and they tend to be on the chaotic good side of things. Okay. So then we've got the intellectual, Hermione, Bruce Banner, Hercule Poirot, the Sorcerer Supreme, Sherlock Holmes. So the intellectual is highly willing, okay? They want to come in and put things right. And that honestly is their biggest motive, is it's like the world is a puzzle and the pieces have been moved out of the places where they go. And their whole job is to put things back in the order that they belong. So they have a very big ego. They want to fix things and make them right. Their strengths are obviously their intelligence, their logic. They tend to be very resourceful. They can figure things out. So even when you think you have them beat, they're constantly analyzing and reshuffling the pieces. Their weaknesses are, number one, ego, okay? A lot like our peer hero, they see the world in black and white. A lack of empathy. They have a very hard time relating to other people because honestly, they're sort of operating on a different level. And for the most part, they're not open to other opinions. One of the big weaknesses of the intellectual is that someone who's not as smart gives them a good idea and they ignore it until later on when they realize, oh, wow, I should have listened to that person. Their baggage is that most of their lives, they have not fit in. They've always been an outsider. They've always been different. They see the world as a clear black and white puzzle to be put in place. These characters tend to be harder to relate to, but we trust them. Okay, so if you think about Hermione, for example, when she first comes in, she's annoying and obnoxious. She's the know-it-all. She constantly has her hand raised. But if there's someone to solve the problem, we're going to go to Hermione, right? Because she's smart. She'll figure it out. Again, because of their high intelligence and their logic and their resourcefulness, their power is very high. They're 9 out of 10. And their alignment is true neutral, okay? They're not fighting for good and evil. They're fighting to put wrong things right. They want to get the puzzle back in place. All right, so those are our hero types. Now we're going to look at our classic villain types, which include the all-powerful ancient villain, the mastermind evil genius, the nemesis, the bully, the opposing hero, the anti-villain, the fallen, the beast, and Mother Nature. So we're going to use some slightly different characteristics. Some are the same, some are different. So first of all, are they a villain or an antagonist? A villain is an evil person. They are out there to do bad. An antagonist has different goals than our hero does. So an antagonist does not have to be bad. They are just opposed to what our hero is trying to accomplish. Do they intend to harm our hero? What are their motives, strengths, weaknesses? What is their self-view versus their worldview? And then reader reaction, power level, and alignment. So Sauron, Satan, okay, the all-powerful, the ultimate evil that has been around forever, right? All right, so let's take a look at them. So number one, they are 100% villain. They are evil. That is who they are. Do they intend to harm our protagonist, our hero? Not necessarily, okay? They are who they are. They do what they do. It's usually our hero who's trying to come and stop the all-powerful ancient villain. And that's when we get the conflict. So their motives are pure evil. That's who they are. It's their nature. Their strengths are that they are all-powerful. They are unbeatable, okay? Nothing, it's not even just that they haven't been beat. It's that nothing even tries to stand against them because they all are all-powerful. That is also their weakness, though, is that they have won for so long that they can't even imagine anything standing up against them. Their self-view is that they are the only thing that matters. They are really the only living, intelligent, sentient being. Everything else is ants. Their worldview is that everything is subject to and lesser than them if the rest of the world exists at all. You know, they just don't care. Reader reaction is overwhelming fear. And this is 10 plus, okay? This is the ultimate all-powerful villain. And their alignment is pure lawful evil. Okay, then we have the mastermind evil genius, which is sort of the opposite of the intellectual hero. Lex Luthor, Moriarty, Gordon Gekko, Goldfinger, Jafar. Okay, so They are, again, 100% villain. They are evil. Okay. Do they intend to harm our hero? Yes. Okay. Lex Luthor intends to harm Superman. In fact, that could be his weakness, is that he spends so much time trying to defeat the hero. Their motives are typically things like power, greed, arrogance. Okay. Again, they are villain. They are bad. This is who they are. That's why their goals are sort of the opposite of some of our pure heroes. Their strengths are obviously brains, planning, and they're always one step ahead. Even of our mastermind, our intellectual hero, they are usually one step ahead. They're usually a little smarter, a little further ahead than whoever they're up against, especially if it's Lex Luthor versus, say, Superman, as opposed to Moriarty versus Sherlock Holmes. But for most of the story, they're going to be ahead. Their weaknesses are that they're arrogant and they underestimate the hero because, like our intellectual hero, they view themselves on a different plane. They view themselves often as either better than everyone else or a new order, a higher order. Okay, they are actually different than humans. Their worldview is that it's a prize for them to win and that they deserve to win it. Okay, because they're so smart, they should get the world. Reader reactions is occasionally we admire them, but mostly we want to get them humbled. Okay, so we talked about how the intellectual hero kind of can turn off the reader a little bit. The intellectual villain turns us off even more. We want to see them get taken down. Again, very powerful, level 9 and chaotic evil. All right, the Nemesis, Malfoy, Hela, Achilles, Loki, Newman, Magneto. Okay, so these can be a villain, but usually they're just an antagonist. Okay, they can be evil and bad, but they don't have to be. They just have an opposing view or goal than our hero does. They usually intend to harm our hero, and their motives are to thwart the hero. Their job is to beat the hero all the time. Okay, that is a target right in front of them, and they have to hit that target. Their strengths are that they are usually the yin to the hero's yang. They are usually more powerful than the hero. So if we take the hero that they are facing, and again, look at the different hero types. If it is a strong hero, the Nemesis will be stronger. If it is a smart hero, the Nemesis will be smarter. If it is a resourceful hero, they will be more resourceful. Their weaknesses are that they are morally wrong. Okay, they don't have the same support network as our hero. Our hero has these people that care about them and behind them. They have this family. Most of the time, the Nemesis does not have people supporting them and caring about them. And they're on the wrong side. Morally, their compass is on the wrong side. Their self-view is they want to prove that they are the real hero. And their worldview is usually very close to the heroes, but with one critical difference. You know, that's why the Nemesis is the one who goes, you know, if just one or two things had changed, we would be the same person. Okay, which is often really true. So we're rooting against them, but they usually make us laugh. The Nemesis usually is entertaining. Their power level is slightly above whatever hero we're placing them against, and their alignment is neutral evil. Okay, so now we get the bully: Dolores Umbridge, Biff Tannen, Nurse Ratched, Annie Wilkes, Miss Trunchbull, Johnny Lawrence. Okay, right away, just looking at this, they make you angry. If you look at Harry Potter and you say, who do people hate the most? Okay, it's not the ultimate villain, right? It's not Voldemort. No, it's Dolores Umbridge. It is the bully. These are the people that just make us so angry. So for the most part, they are an antagonist. Can they be evil? Can they be a villain? Sure. But mostly they just do mean things to our hero all the time. And that is intentional. They want to hurt our hero continually, and they do. And their motive is to destroy the hero. Their strengths are that they are stronger and have more power, better connections, better resources than whoever our hero is. Their weakness is that they are so focused on winning that that's a very narrow tunnel view for them. They can't see other things that are going on. And so it's like a chess game where they're just focused on getting to that other king without watching their own flanks. Their self-view is that usually they have very low self-esteem. We don't always get to know the bully, but if we do, most of the time we will discover that they were picked on when they were kids, and that they make themselves feel better by hurting others because they have been hurt. Their worldview is usually very negative. They're not looking to change the world or make the world a better place in a different way. They don't want to become the hero. They think the world is just a really bad place and that people are bad, and they're going to make it bad too. The reader reaction is that we hate this villain more than any other villain. Their power level usually isn't high. You know, it's like 6, so it's above average, and they'll be a little more powerful than our hero, but they're not the ultimate powerful villain. And their alignment is chaotic evil, whatever it takes to take down the hero. All right, so then we have the opposing hero. Now, you might look at these and go, well, are all of these villains? Yes and no, depending on what point of view. I've got Iron Man and I've got Captain America. I've got President Snow and I've got Alma Coin. What you see is that all of these people, Benjamin Linus from Lost, Khan, all of them have a group of people that look up to them as their hero. But the opposing group views them as the villain. Okay? So they are an antagonist. They're usually not evil. Again, they can be. I mean, if you read the latest Hunger Games book, right, you're like, wow, I guess he really was a really terrible person. But for the most part, they are an antagonist. They don't necessarily intend to harm our hero. It's just that their goal is in contrast to our hero's goal. So we've got, you know, the chess game. We've got, you know, the white and the black, or the white and the red, or whatever. And these two chess teams are fighting against each other. They're not necessarily looking to hurt the other person. They're looking to win their cause. And that is their motive, is to serve the cause that they believe in. Their strengths are usually very, very similar to our heroes. Usually they're about the same level. Their weaknesses are that they are supporting the wrong cause. Their self-view is they're fighting for what is right or necessary, and they will do whatever it takes to accomplish that. Their worldview is that sacrifices have to be made for the greater good. Okay? This is what's right, and sometimes you have to do bad things to accomplish that, but the greater good. A lot of times, if this is written well, we can actually see both sides. We can see both the hero and the villain. We can see both of their point of view, and we'll probably pick the heroes, but we can understand where the villain is coming from. They're usually a little more powerful than the hero, but very, very close. And their alignment is lawful neutral, okay? They are there for the law of what they believe. All right, then we have the anti-villain. Now, one of the questions I get asked a lot is, wait, couldn't this person fall in there or come across? They absolutely could. Okay, you can have some crossover, but if you can figure out what main type your villain and your hero fall into, then you can look at the types of conflicts you can create, and we'll talk about that. So Thanos, Whopper from War Games, Charles Muntz, Regina, Mayor Lionheart. Okay, so these are could be both a villain and an antagonist, or they could be neither. Okay, their intent is not specifically to harm our hero, It's just that their goal is to make the world a better place by their standards. All right. So we've got Thanos, who is saying, the universe is overpopulated. I've got to cut that down to make it a better place for everyone. If no one gets in his way, he doesn't care about them. He's not looking to fight them. It's just if you try to stop them, then you get in their way. So their strengths are that they have not even 100, they have 1,000% belief that they are right, that they are on the right path. Their weaknesses are that they aren't actually evil. They're just obeying their own rules. So if we could convince them that their rules are wrong and that there's a way to accomplish their goals or accomplish good in a different way, it could be turned. Their self-view is that they're the parent. They know what's best, and everyone else just needs to understand that they're right. Their worldview is that the world is a bad place that needs to be fixed. As a reader, most of the time, we're trying to figure them out. We're trying to understand them. We're trying to see how they view the world. One of the interesting things is that often if you look at a movie with an anti-villain, the story or the movie is often told from their point of view. So if you go back and you say, well, here's my heroes that are, the Avengers, and here's Thanos. Thanos' story actually makes more sense if you can view it from his point of view. So we're trying to understand who they are and what they do. Their power level is that they usually hold all the cards. They have all the connections. They have all the gems. They have all of the power. And their alignment is lawful neutral. Okay, then we have the Fallen, Macbeth, Jack Torrance, Anakin Skywalker, Maleficent, Saruman. Okay, these are heroes who have fallen. Okay, so are they a villain? Yes, they are a villain. They are evil. Do they intend to harm our hero? Yes, they do. So this is where they can be both an antagonist and a villain, but they are evil. So their motive are that they used to be on this side, they've changed sides, and now they need to stop the hero's sides. Their strengths are that they know all of your tricks, they know all of your rules, all of your powers, but they're willing to cheat on their side. They don't have the moral compass of your side. Their weakness is that they were once good. So somewhere deep inside, they believed that your side was right. They often struggle with guilt and fight against it. That's their self-view and part of their weakness. Their worldview is that the good side, the side they're opposed to, is weak. But if it had been stronger, we would have never come to this situation. The reader reaction is we really, really, excuse me, want to see them come back to the good side. We want to see them reform. Their power level is about 6 to 7, but often they have a higher up. They have a bigger boss who is more powerful, who is over them. And their alignment is chaotic evil. Okay, then we have the Beast, Jaws, Moby Dick, Alien, Cujo, Shere Khan. All right, so the Beast is neither villain nor antagonist. They're just who they are. Do they intend to harm? Yes. Why do they intend to harm? It's in their genetics. It's who they are. It's what they do, okay? They were built to harm. Their strengths are that they're very strong, possibly cunning, and that they're just sort of this force of nature that keeps coming. So think about Jaws, this shark that just keeps eating and tearing and ripping, and no matter what you do to it, it's still coming for you. Their weaknesses are that they're not smart, they're not cunning, they don't plan. I mean, their cunning is not an intelligent cunning. So they don't think out a plan. They might sneak up, but they mostly use brute force. Their self-view is kill and eat, okay? Their worldview, they typically don't have a worldview. They're just focused on doing their thing. So as a reader, when we view them, they're terrifying. You know, it's that shark that makes us never want to go in the water again. But sometimes it can be tempered by pity, because we get that they're not bad, they're just drawn that way, right? Okay, their power level is 8, pretty powerful, and their alignment is true neutral. They just do their thing. They're not good or bad. And then last of all, we have Mother Nature. Okay, Mother Nature as the villain. So are they a villain or antagonist? Neither one. Is their intent to harm? Nope, they don't have an intent. They don't have any motives. Their strength, that they can't be reasoned with. You can't reason with an earthquake or a fire or a tornado or a hurricane, okay? Their weakness is that there is no intent or planning. You can be standing right next to that tornado and have it pass you, or you can be running away and have it rip you to pieces. This depends on what happens. There is no self-view, there is no worldview. And because of that, the reader reaction is this visceral fear. I was raised in California, so earthquakes don't make me afraid. But people who are not around earthquakes, that's terrifying to them. I was not raised around tornadoes or hurricanes. So when we moved to an area where there are like tornadoes all the time, it was like, how do you even live here, right? It's very, very frightening, and they're incredibly powerful. And their alignment is true neutral. So when we're writing or creating a story, what we're looking for is conflict, which is a struggle between opposing forces. We have internal conflict. Internal conflict, usually our character has something that they are afraid of, okay, that they don't want anyone to know about, like some kind of secret, right? They don't want people to know that. Something that they believe really strongly that if they discovered it wasn't true would crack them, okay? Doubt can be a huge internal conflict. Their history, how were they raised? What did they believe? How do they view the world? These are all things that can create internal conflict. External conflict are the enemies, the monsters, the situation, the weather. Now, ideally, what we'd like to do is take internal conflict and put it into conflict with external conflict. So if I take Katniss and I say Katniss's biggest thing is protecting others, but in order to protect others, she has to kill others, okay? That's internal conflict. What does she believe? Put in conflict with external conflict. And those tend to be some of the most powerful. So what I want to do then is I want to look at my attributes of my heroes and my villains and look and say, where and how can I create conflict through this? So one of the things that I can do is I can have my hero and my villain both want the same goal, but be approaching it from a different way, okay? I can have weakness against strength. I can have strength against strength. I can have conflicting beliefs. How much time? Perfect. Conflicting beliefs with gray areas. Brawn versus brain. Confused reader appeal. Wait, am I rooting for this person or this person? Baggage versus worldview. Similar motives with different strengths and weaknesses. Baggage against motive, opposing or similar alignments. Okay, so what kind of conflict do we want to create? Let's play with these a little bit. Let's put the pure hero against the evil genius. We have Superman. Let's put the pure hero against the opposing hero. We have Civil War. Let's put the unlikely hero against the all-powerful villain. Okay, Lord of the Rings. Let's take the unlikely hero against the bully, Matilda. Let's have the unlikely hero against the opposing hero, How to Train Your Dragon. Okay, the intellectual versus the evil genius, Sherlock Holmes. The intellectual versus the bully, Home Alone. The intellectual versus Mother Nature, Twister. Okay, the intellectual versus the beast, Jurassic Park. Okay, I can mix and match. I can go like versus like versus unlike, hero against what they fear, hero against what they were, weak beliefs versus strong beliefs, hero against what they don't know, hero against what knows them best, hero against what they believe. These are all different ways that I can play with my story to create that conflict. Okay, so that is the end of this presentation, this PowerPoint. We'll open it up to questions. First of all, if you would like a copy of this PowerPoint, I'm happy to share it for your personal use or like your critique group use or things like that. What I ask is that you do not share it publicly, either the PowerPoint itself or verbatim the notes and things. So as long as you want to use it for yourself, that's great. You can message me on Facebook. It's J. Scott Savage. Twitter is at J. Scott Savage. Instagram is J. Scott Savage too. My website is www.jscottsavage.com. My email is scott@jscottsavage.com, or just go to my website and click on contact. eHarmony. No, I'm just kidding. There is no actual eHarmony. So, all right. So I am going to stop sharing this. And let me jump back over there and see if anyone has any questions about any of this. I think we've got 2-3 minutes, something like that. Can you guys see questions on your side? Okay. All right. If you come up with questions, if you have questions that you want to ask later, feel free to message me, email me. Hopefully this has been helpful, and this is something that I've started to use more and more, especially in a series. If you look at a series of books, one of the things you have to ask yourself is, like in a fantasy series, what is the ultimate secret of the series, and what is going to be revealed as we go through the books? That's one of them. The second thing is, who are my villains in the book? Who is my ultimate villain, and who will I introduce as sub-villains along the way? And so that's a really fun thing to play with in the books building up through the series, are having different types of villains that my hero plays with to create different conflicts in the story. So anyhow, I hope this was helpful and that you enjoyed it. I think we're about done.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Our next panel is going to be Take My Death Away here at 8 o'clock. Hope to see you all then. Till then, take care.
When you write a play like this, you have a vague idea of what the characters will look and sound like, but to actually see them take on real faces and real voices and personalities that you never imagined is just so much fun.
Not only does it have a fun Halloween theme that people can come see right now because of the holiday, but as well it's got a good comical side. People can laugh, hopefully maybe cry, have a little tears, but it will uplift your spirits so that you can have a couple hours of
When you write a play like this, you have a vague idea of what the characters will look and sound like, but to actually see them take on real faces and real voices and personalities that you never imagined is just so much fun.
Not only does it have a fun Halloween theme that people can come see right now because of the holiday, but as well it's got a good comical side. People can laugh, hopefully maybe cry, have a little tears, but it will uplift your spirits so that you can have a couple hours away from your own stresses of life.
You could say it's kind of similar to Ghost or Hocus Pocus or Phantom of the Opera, but to see all these elements coming together, it's a really unique experience. It's brilliant.
It is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And the music is so fun, and the storyline is phenomenal, and
It's powerful.
it is.
It's genuinely scary, so not for young kids, but if you're into Halloween, this is the show to see.
At the same time, though, it's an uplifting play.
I think people should see this play because it's fun. We're having a great time doing it, and I think that you guys are going to have a great time watching it.
The cast is so passionate. Every character just brings so much energy.
It offers entertainment, and it is also thought-provoking at the same time.
There's a lot of great moments in it. There's some pretty funny, humorous parts, and there's some pretty dramatic parts, and I think it does well of being able to combine all of them.
Come see the show.
Oh, by all means.
We're hysterical.
Oh my goodness.
We are so funny.
We'll
You don't
forget
wanna
about
miss
everybody
out.
else. It's us.
It's us.
It's just a really enchanting Halloween story. You've got the spooks, you've got the All Hallows Eve dance, you've got romance.
It's unique. It's nothing like I've ever seen before or heard or been a part of, and for me it's been life-changing.
Take My Death Away is now premiering at the Angelus Theater, featuring a full cast. Tonight's preview will be performed by the Gashler family. Our story begins at the turn of the 20th century in rural America, where an engaged couple David and Sadie face tragedy when David suddenly dies of the dreaded consumption, cholera. As David's spirit lingers in the graveyard with other spirits, one Dr. Isaac has his eyes on a suddenly available Sadie.
Ended so suddenly, a life just begun. Where are you, darling? Our dreams are left undone. Ended so suddenly, a life just begun. Where are you, darling? Our dreams are left undone. To please return, feel the deadly frost. For since in morning my soul is lost, won't you stay near me? Why can't you hear me? Lingering spirit, come to peace, don't fear it.
It's not my time, I'm in my prime, or there must be some mistake. Have no concern, I will return as soon as I awake.
Don't make it worse, it's been my curse for countless years on end. You'll take your toll like every soul, at least you'll have a friend.
The night is black, no coming back once we say goodbye. Through all the pain and falling rain, we only live to die. Give tooth and nail, the crop will fail, the well will surely dry. You'll lose your hair till nothing's there, we only live to die.
Never have I seen such tender grief. How can I bring her soul relief? Never have I seen one so beautiful. Could she ever see me as suitable? I won't surrender and bow to that pretender.
Let's go of this darkness, I'll help you find catharsis.
Tell me there must be a way to set my soul free.
Come learn of your abilities, there may be some possibilities. Moonlight madness, real reality. Eyes deceive, but I believe you'll come back to me.
Why such cold unforgiving? I hate to see you bereft. Those of us who are still living mustn't forsake what is left.
say goodbye to all the pain and falling rain. We only live to die. Give tooth and nail, the crop will fail. The love will surely try. You'll lose your hair, so nothing's there. We only live to die.
Night after night, as the autumn leaves fall and the wind howls, a sleepless Sadie gazes out her window, torn between the memory of David and the advances of Dr. Isaac. Is that David's shadow she sees in the distance? Could she be hearing the sound of his violin?
Beyond the misty forest, standing atop a hill, someone is watching me, wanting me, stalking me, beckoning moonlight, a dangerous thrill. Sometimes I lie awake while his voice calls me through the wind. I know he is near when my hair stands on end. I'm frightened, yet hopelessly long for my friend. Under a rapturous spell, but is he from heaven or hell?
Lady, seeing things that ne'er can be, or does her heart know of other possibilities? Why not slip out while others pass the night in their dreams? Run through shadows, barefoot and helpless, he'll take you. One of these nights he'll reach out, parting right through the veil. We'll dance through the starlight, and time will stand still. I'll pass between worlds with that man from the hill. I hear him as clear as the knell of the bell. If only I knew he's from heaven, not hell.
Through charm and reason, Dr. Isaac tries to persuade Sadie to move on with him, but Sadie is far too preoccupied with death.
Every moment time is ticking, going by and by. Any moment falling and tripping, hit your head and die. Always someone else
of fear and alarm. In the shady walls of a garden, safe within a husband's arms.
All your happy talk is assuming death's gonna spare him too. I can feel the shadows looming, it's too good to be true. Every passing hour I'm learning, though we're trying to make it last. No matter how our hearts keep a yearning, the best days are already past.
Please try to see it, there's hope ahead, and if you'll let me be it, I promise you I will unlock these shackles and help you live again.
I want to see it, I'm trying hard but I just can't believe it. With all the pain and the
Weight of these shackles, oh, can you help me live again? Such a pretty face for a burden, such a tragic past. Even wounded heart still a hurtin', can find relief at last.
But if I open up to another, what will be his fate? If I were you, I'd take off running before it grows too late.
Meanwhile, on the other side, David explores his unhappy world of restless spirits.
Glimmering remnants of twilight reflect the chill of the moonlight in soft retrospect. At dusk you can listen, the veil is so thin. You'll hear desperation from spirits within.
Restless immortals awaiting our fates. We look at the living with jealousy and hate. We're bound to the earth, for we fail to transcend. We long to return to our lives once again. Our spirits are broken, our bodies are dust. The cruel separation was harsh and unjust. Hope is unheard of and dreams do no good. We bend to the light if we only could. Life is a lie, we live to die. The promise of a brighter day won't take the sting of death away. You can't deny, we're ostracized. We're cast off, we've been thrown away. There's nothing left, it's fair to say. Restless immortals awaiting our fates. We look at the living with jealousy and hate. We're bound to the earth, for we failed to transcend. We long to return to our lives again. Life is a lie, we live to die. The promise of a brighter day won't take the sting of death away. You can't deny, we're ostracized. We're cast off, we've been thrown away. There's nothing left, it's fair to say. Life is a lie.
David and his new friend Eve, a lingering spirit from the 18th century, undertake the ultimate quest to reverse death. Ever since her passing in the Revolutionary War, Eve has tried to unlock the secrets of life, attempting to use her ghostly influence to reanimate bodies. But every experiment has failed. That is, until David showed up. With David's fresh body and an iron will, together they've succeeded at getting David halfway back to Sadie. But as soon as the sun rises, the power dissipates and his body collapses. When some other spirits discover what David and Eve are up to, they warn him with the legend of Old Daniel, a cautionary tale for wandering spirits, who, if not careful, may end up trapped between worlds.
Old Daniel Baines was a tireless soul,
Killed in his sleep, revenge was his goal.
spent his afterlife dreaming of an attack,
Till he discovered a way to come back.
he entered his body a mere sack of bones.
Then struggled to walk to his murderer's home.
The door was unlocked and pushed with a grin.
Searching the hallways and bedrooms within,
A life for a life.
he pulled out his knife. Daniel tiptoed right up the stairs, up to where he did his terrible deed.
Throwing off the sheets, Dan searched for a stain.
But the bed was empty, his thrust was in vain.
How many years had gone by since he died?
Still longing for vengeance, he searched far and wide.
Night after night, a wandering slave,
Day after day, he returned to the grave.
corrupted in body, corrupted in soul.
Driven with hatred beyond control.
At last he found his murderer's bed.
Lying peacefully underneath the flowered wreath, the man was already dead.
Burdened with failure, Dan tried to free his soul.
But welded with anger, he couldn't let it go.
At the crack of morning, his body collapsed.
But shackled where he lay, his poor spirit was trapped.
Never to live and never to die.
By day he would wait, by night he would rise.
His lust for blood as cold as his breath.
Brought many others to their deaths.
For needing to kill,
His craving to fill,
the demon of the night.
the harbinger of fright.
Lost in the shadows,
Wished for the gallows. Daniel Baines will try and try, but never die. Rest, oh, never in peace.
David isn't frightened by the warnings of the other spirits. He tries to persuade Eve to come back with him. Eve, whose body decayed long ago, insists that it's too late for her. She wonders if she and David shouldn't abandon this reckless pursuit and move on together to the great beyond. But David will not give up. He must return to Sadie before Dr. Isaac takes her first.
I know she's your hope, life force and your breath. Hold on to my rope. You must conquer death. You've helped me believe there is more than sorrow and pain. Look at what we've achieved. You must go, and I must remain.
There's a new life waiting for me, waiting for you. A curtain is falling, a destiny calling, a glorious view. There are no ends, you've proved there's always a way. A burning within you, a fight to continue, a conquered grave. gentle touch surely comes at a cost. You've given so much. Must your soul be lost?
You know I must stay. Paths destined to part. But while you are away, you will always be in my heart. There's a new life waiting for you far from this place. This is my plea now, forget about me, you must run your race. My work is here, we could argue this all day, but no sense in stalling, for duty is calling.
We'll find a way. Why must you stay?
There's more to do, thoughts to pursue.
Doesn't it feel strange and surreal? What will I do, parted from you? There's a new life waiting for you far from this cave. How could I forget when I'm deep in your debt for my life you've saved?
You are the one who brought me light in the night. I'll still dream about you.
I can't go without you, it's just not right. Go to the life waiting for me, waiting for you. A curtain is falling, a destiny calling, a glorious view. There are no ends, you prove there's always a way. A burning within you, a fight to continue, a conquered grave.
Everyone, both mortals and spirits, the pious and the devilish, are getting ready for All Hallows' Eve, the night of the year when the veil is the thinnest. Meanwhile, rumors about David and Eve's mission have spread, and now all the spirits want to go back.
Oh, won't you save us from this unending torment? This is too much. Raise us from sinking in the shadowy hole. I can't help you.
We all were meant to feel the open air.
I owe you nothing.
Each soul is precious, don't you even care?
It's not to be. How can you leave us? Won't you hear our plea? Show us the way and we will follow your lead. Let leaves are falling and the spirit is right. We feel the power of this sacred night. The wind is howling and we're ready to leave. We feel the power of All Hallows Eve.
A silver moon is gazing down through the branches.
Stop the witches.
I hear the demons sneaking out for the prowl.
Save the children. We feel the presence of an unholy throng. Our foes are many, but we gotta be strong. Days get shorter and the veil is so thin. We know something is about to begin. Oh, fear the gazing of the unyielding eyes, watching the shadows where spirits rise. Let leaves are falling and the spirit is right. We feel the power of the secret light. The wind is howling and we're ready to leave. We feel the power of All Hallows Eve. We're feeling restless and unquenchable burn. The light is calling us, we've got to return. Please don't deny us, for we've charted our course. We are determined and unstoppable force. Let leaves are falling and the spirit is right.
Eve's help, David has re-entered his body, combed his hair, and brushed off the bugs. Still, he looks, feels, and smells like death. How is he possibly going to win back Sadie like this? Luckily, a spiritual medium, Dr. Christoph, comes to David's aid, though at what price is the question.
My temperature's dropping, my pulse slowing down. My elbows are creaking, my eyes are glazing over, and I'm trying to please both the girls in my mind. But everything's breaking, I just need more time. Oh, Eve, did I hurt you? I know this is hard. Don't mean to desert you, but I just don't belong within your world of shadows. I'm meant for the light. When Sadie is calling, how can I throw my dream away and stifle my heart, torture my heart? Sadie, tell me, why do you run away when I've tried so hard to leave the graveyard? I know I'm smelly, but you've surely dealt with worse. I thought love was unconditional. What's a little death compared to all eternity? I know it's a bit untraditional, but you and I can work it out and keep the fire burning.
A wearier traveler I never have seen. Oh friend, won't you tell me, how can I lift your spirit? I'm Professor J. Christoph, the master of thought. The cure to your ailments can surely be taught.
My problems are bigger than tricks of the mind.
Your physical symptoms merely are extensions of the fallacy spinning in circles within. Give me your mind and I'll fix you from the inside till there's nothing to fear. Doctor is near.
You could never understand the pain I'm going through.
You're trapped between worlds, caught between girls. I could give you everything you want and more. You long just to live in a yesterday, but I can show you how to live like there is no tomorrow. Just sign to enroll as a patient in my therapeutic practice to relinquish all your sorrow.
More than just sorrow, I'm falling apart.
My friend, I am versed in the spiritual arts. Yes, I have the power to keep you alive. Choose me as your master or you'll never survive.
What is your price?
No sacrifice. Helping wandering souls is its own reward. Once you have signed, unguard your mind. Your permission will allow me to control you. I'll move through the soul, and the easy part is fixing up the body till you're running good as new.
There must be another way. I cannot give away the one thing I'm still holding on to.
To the astonishment of all, especially Sadie, a living and revitalized David makes his return at the All Hallows Eve social. Meanwhile, a forsaken Dr. Isaac and Eve are left to stand by and wonder what to do with themselves. Please forgive the dinosaurs and senseless violence towards snowmen. It's a music video. It's not supposed to make sense.
Please don't fear. I'm finally here. Give me your hand and you will know nothing can tear us apart. Death cannot stop us when we're true to our hearts.
Please forgive my caution and fear. Are you really standing here?
Give me your hand and you will know nothing can tear us apart. Death cannot stop us when we're true to our hearts.
mesmerizer, Dr. Christoph, has his eyes on Eve. Seeing her alone and vulnerable, he tries to persuade her to use her ghostly influence to take the life of Sadie and possess her body. Then Sadie's happiness could be Eve's. Meanwhile, David, Isaac, and Sadie question whether or not this incredible evening is nothing more than a dream.
Lonely lady, beautiful and sweet, give your mind and you will find the hope that you seek. I have answers for the pain you feel. Come to me and you will be living and real.
Is this but a delusion? Can you help me find peace? How I'm filled with confusion. Will my suffering cease?
Are you but an illusion? Are you real as you seem? Can we have second chances? Will we wake from this dream? Orange and violet, darkness and light, shadowy figures dance through the night. On Hallows Eve, the worlds collide, staining you through the other side.
Hope and anguish, grief and ecstasy, wanting to believe in you that there's more for me.
One small squeeze and pain will disappear. Come to me and you will be living and real. What could be the causation? Can I trust in this lie? There is no explanation. Can we come back when we die? Are you but an illusion? Are you real as you seem? Can we have second chances? Will we wake from this dream? Orange and violet, darkness and light, shadowy figures dance through the night. On Hallows Eve, the worlds collide, staining you through the other side. Moonlight madness, frail reality. I deceive, but I believe you'll come back to me. Time is bondage, fate is never fair. When at last we're called to pass, I'll go and find you there.
Eve refuses to give in to the temptation of Dr. Christoph. But Christoph, who's on a mission to obtain a soul for his master, the Prince of Darkness, isn't about to give up. Through trickery, Christoph arranges an accident that results in the demise of David. If David dies, his indebted soul belongs to Christoph. That is, unless Christoph will accept a substitution from Eve, a gifted and valuable soul indeed.
Your story ended fast, a tragedy indeed. It wasn't meant to last, and now we must proceed. You're grasping onto life, but there's no hope for you. The bullet's wound is deep, there's nothing left to do. So let your spirit go, escape your suffering. Why bother fighting and denying obvious reality? Plan for my demise, you knew that all along. Why wait another hour? There's no good reason to prolong.
Take my soul instead, I'll give up everything.
You make a tempting deal, you are a worthy trade.
If you give him his life back, I'll forever be your slave.
Nothing less, nothing more, give to me your hand.
He will stay, I will go, I'll follow your command.
Down we go this way where my master waits. He'll get your blind submission and I'll get a great commission.
David, don't leave me, I'm here.
Please forgive your friend. He was deceived, as was I. Now I'm at my end.
Of twilight reflects the chill of the moonlight in soft retrospect. At dusk you can listen, the veil is so thin. You'll hear desperation from spirits within. Our spirits are broken, our bodies are dust. The cruel separation was harsh and unjust. Hope is unheard of and dreams do no good. We bend to the light if we only could.
We're coming to the gate, just follow down this path. What's passing over here, there's no returning back. You good for nothing lie, you failed to keep the deal.
I refuse to go with you.
Your promise cannot be repealed. I won't budge, we'll have to fight. If you must insist, I let him live 1 minute more. Our contract still persists. Down we go this way where my master waits. He'll get your blind submission and I'll get a great commission.
David, I'm sorry, your life wasn't how it should be. You deserve more, so please go find divinity.
Will tragedy be the ends of Eve, David, Sadie, and Isaac? Or will goodness prevail? Come see the play to find out. When you write a play like this, you have a vague idea of what the characters will look and sound like, but to actually see them take on real faces and real voices and personalities that you never imagined is just so much fun.
Not only does it have a fun Halloween theme that people can come see right now because of the holiday, but as well it's got a good comical side. People can laugh, hopefully maybe cry, have a little tears, but it will uplift your spirits so that you can have a couple hours away from your own stresses of life.
You could say it's kind of similar to Ghost or Hocus Pocus or Phantom of the Opera, but to see all these elements coming together, it's a really unique experience. It's brilliant.
It is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And the music is so fun, and the storyline is phenomenal, and
It's powerful.
it is.
It's genuinely scary, so not for young kids, but if you're into Halloween, this is the show to see.
At the same time, though, it's an uplifting play.
The young man David had died, but he doesn't want to stay dead. He's reluctant to stay dead. He's trying to somehow get back to his fiancée, Sadie.
In seeking to return to the happiness that he seeks of his former life, David has to get his body back and come back to life, which is a process that involves a lot.
And Sadie, on the other side, is trying to continue to move forward with her life, but she can't because she keeps thinking she sees or hears glimpses of David.
There's something that's pulling her back and she just can't move on. She's stuck in this mourning of depression, anger, and all of the grief that we experience when we lose someone that we love.
My character's name is Isaac, and he's a doctor. And the main thing that he wants is to be able to court the lovely young Sadie. The main obstacle that he faces is Sadie's reluctance to move on from David.
I play Eve. She's the oldest ghost in the graveyard. She wants to uncover the mystery of life.
Pat just wants to roam around the cemetery for all eternity. That's what she wants.
And you would think that once you get to the other side, it's all clear. But even for the ghosts, there's still this vast frontier of the unknown, the great beyond, they call it. And a lot of them are terrified, and that's why they're ghosts, because they're not ready to move on, because they don't know what's out there.
My favorite theme is how much love can heal.
Things work out, but they don't always look like you think that they would.
And everybody has their different things they're dealing with, but the way they all intertwine and culminate at the end is powerful.
Sometimes we look too much at the past and we think that those things in the past were still needing to make us happy instead of seeing what's in our present right now, seeing what's right in front of us that can actually make us even maybe more happy than what we thought.
Like a month before it opens, we've sold a ton of tickets. This one might actually sell out.
I think people should see this play because it's fun. We're having a great time doing it, and I think that you guys are going to have a great time watching it.
The cast is so passionate. Every character just brings so much energy.
People should see the play because it offers entertainment and it is also thought-provoking at the same time.
There's a lot of great moments in it. There's some pretty funny, humorous parts, and there's some pretty dramatic parts, and I think it does well of being able to combine all of them.
We are doing a virtual option. We've had so many people who've been excited to have us do that because they need to stay home and they're higher risk and they really want theater in their lives, but they just cannot go to a live theater right now. And it allows us to put our play out to anywhere in the world where you can get a YouTube link from us.
Come see the show.
Oh, by all means.
We're hysterical.
Oh my goodness.
We're so funny.
We'll
You don't
forget
wanna
about
miss
everybody
out.
else. It's us.
It's us.
It's just a really enchanting Halloween story. You've got the spooks, you've got the All Hallows Eve dance, you've got romance.
It's unique. It's nothing like I've ever seen before or heard or been a part of, and for me it's been life-changing.